My dad was coming to the United States every year for work. He was an astrophysicist. And every few years, he would come for a year-long sabbatical. And so in 1981, my parents decided that we would all go. Usually he came by himself, but we decided that, well, they decided, I didn't. I was 14. That we would come with him for this year-long sabbatical in California at Caltech. And then we were planning on returning. But then things happened and we didn't. We ended up being accidental immigrants. So when we left in October 81, this was the second year of Poland was entering second year of solidarity movement, organizing. When we left, actually things were getting quite tense. I wasn't as aware of it probably as at the time as I became later, but there was a lot of concern that Soviet Union would actually intervene in Poland, like it had in '68 in Czechoslovakia and '56 in Hungary. So at least the adults were getting very concerned and the political situation was tense. But it's not why we left. We just left for sabbatical. On December 13th, 1981, so just a couple months after we left, there was a military coup in Poland, and martial law was declared.
Good evening. Poland's Solidarity Union claimed today that its workers were on strike in many mines and factories in defiance of the martial law imposed yesterday. But the extent of the stoppages could not be checked by Western newsmen, hampered by the almost total shutdown of communications. Telephone, telex, and telegraph services were cut yesterday when Poland's military leaders announced a state of emergency. Hundreds of leaders of the Solidarity Union were taken into custody. The national leader, Lech Walesa, was reported to be in negotiation with government leaders. The government denied that he'd been arrested, but his whereabouts were still unknown today.
It wasn't clear what the situation would be going forward, and so my parents decided to extend our stay for at least another year. And then one thing happened, then another thing happened, and here we are 30-something years later, or 40 years later. So there were fears for my own life and how it was all of a sudden completely changing in ways that I wasn't sure how it would change, right? I mean, at the time, my English sucked. I hated the school I was in Pasadena, California. I didn't have any friends. So it was also just sort of saying, wow, what now? My plan to go back all of a sudden was completely foiled. And it was the sense of, things happening outside of my control that were going to completely change my life. And I wasn't sure in what ways, but I knew at that moment that my plan that I had developed for my life was completely going down the toilet. It was never going to be the same. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what that new thing was going to be, and that was very frightening. It was very frightening that I was stuck in the United States. I did not want to be in the U.S. at all. And so the thought that I would be stuck in this, but at the time was just utter misery, as far as I was concerned.
Together, we'll make America great again. Thank you very much.
I didn't want to come here.
And why didn't you want to come?
Oh, I didn't want to come here because I was very happy where I was in Poland. And I came here for a year with my father, okay? And he said, just come here and learn English. And then we'll go back. And we never went back.
Come here to visit your father and then we'll go back.
Exactly, and we never went back. And I refused. And for the first year I was here, I refused to learn English or speak English. And I just didn't deal with it.
Well, I thought that coming for a year to California, to Pasadena, that I liked very much, was very positive. I think I expected a nice year in California sunshine. I was a little bit anxious because when I was leaving Poland, this political situation was rather tense, but I did not anticipate that there will be military coup. So the beginning was rather positive, I would say, but it ended after 2 months, the happiness was short-lived, and started a period of drama, worry about family and friends, and what will be going on in Poland, and incredibly stressful lack of any information what was going on.
Yeah.
At least my memory of those days are such that we simply didn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
That's my memory as well, because the phones were cut off,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no mail.
Oh,
and
mail
so-
wasn't coming for a very long
So
time.
it was kind of a black hole in terms of information. That lasted for months. So that was very scary because we just didn't know. And a lot of people were arrested once martial law was declared. So it wasn't clear to my mom, for instance, who was very involved in solidarity movement, how many of her friends were in jail. And the images that what we knew was from some of the reporting that was on TV. So there were some reporters in Poland, international reporters, and so there were occasionally reports, and a lot of them were very scary because there were demonstrations that were being pushed, dispersed by riot police. There were tanks in the streets. There's this very famous photo, actually, of tanks in front of a movie theater, which was ironically called Moscow.
That aged well.
That aged well. And the movie that was showing at the time was Apocalypse Now. And so you have these tanks and soldiers, standing in front of this movie theater with a huge banner, Apocalypse Now, which kind of was...
Yeah, no, that sums it up.
Yeah, that kind of summed it up in so many ways.